All right, we are now recording. All right. Today is June 2nd, 2026. My name is Floyd Hurst. I'm here with Frank Groosby. Frank, do I have your consent to record?
Yes, you do.
All right. So I'm interviewing you as part of my project, as part of my internship with Carrollton Rainbow, and with to collect oral histories of the board and other members. So for the audience, could you give a brief description of your background, who you are, and what you do for Carrollton Rainbow?
Yes. As you said, my name is Frank Goolsby. I've lived in West Georgia my entire life, really. I grew up in Paulding County, moved out here when I was 14.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Carroll County schools and went to University of West Georgia and studied psychology. After college, I decided to get into real estate, which I'm a realtor now, and I'm married to Andy. We've been together for 23 years, and we've been married for, I think, 16 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I know that's extremely long in gay years. Um, so he and I have been together that long. We have lived in West Georgia our whole life, so this existence is all I've ever known.
Mm-hmm.
And then I work and live out here in the community in West Georgia. I came to know Carrollton Rainbow just after the pandemic, when myself and my husband recognized that we were pretty much devoid of any kind of real sense of community.
Mm-hmm.
He nor I are religious people by any means, so a lot of people find their community in religious spaces, and we are not those people. And we realized in the pandemic, ironically, even though we were isolating, we were suddenly aware of how there wasn't a sense of community to reach out and just connect with people to get through that. And so coming out of the pandemic, I knew that was something that we needed. And some friend of mine just sent me a link to this random picnic with this group called Carrollton Rainbow that I'd never heard of.
Right.
And she's like, I thought you might like this. And I showed it to Andy and to our best friend Avery, that you know. Avery also lives with us, and
Mm-hmm.
Avery identifies as non-binary. She's our best friend for 22 years. They are our best friend for 22 years, excuse me. And I lost my train of thinking there. Hang on a second, I'm reeling it back.
No problem.
And Andy and I realized we didn't have a community. I got this invitation. We went out to the picnic, and I saw all these people. And first of all, it was wild because I was just surprised. I was like, I didn't know there were this many gay people in Carrollton, just because I hadn't been putting myself in any situations where I had the opportunity to see the community that was here. But I think Carrollton Rainbow has a lot to do with that, because nobody was creating any kind of spaces before Carrollton Rainbow came
Right.
along where we had to go. Nobody was.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until they came along and quote unquote built it that we had somewhere to go, and we had somewhere to congregate and say, we were here and we've been here the whole time.
Right.
And in going to that picnic, I slowly not only started finding my community that's been here the whole time. It pulled me in, obviously, and I wanted to be a part of it, and I wanted to help it grow. And within a year, they asked me to join the board, and within 2 years, I'm now president of the board.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably, I feel like it's my primary focus above my work or anything. What I put the most energy in is in this, and I don't do any of this for pay. This is all
Right.
volunteer, but I get so much more back out of this now than I ever would, monetarily speaking.
Right. And right. And so before Carrollton Rainbow, how would you describe your relationship to the wider Carrollton area as a queer person?
Good question. I would say reserved, conservative, not as open. I mentioned that I was a realtor, and before the pandemic, I was the type of person that I would be very careful and calculated with my language when it came to pronouns referencing to my personal life, who my spouse was. And if I had a new client in my car that I was showing property to, I became very skillful at dodging any references to that part of my life,
Mm-hmm.
so I didn't have to mention it for fear of the fact they wouldn't want to work with me once they found out that I was a gay man with a husband out
Right.
here in Carrollton. Because unfortunately, a lot of the people at that time that I was putting in my car probably wouldn't agree with my lifestyle. And so
Right.
I was conducting my business and my life in a way still very much in a closet.
Right.
And I did that for a very, very long time. And in the finding of this somewhere during the pandemic, one of the positive things that came out of it, was that I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want to surround myself. I wanted to make a concerted effort to surround myself with a community of like-minded people so that the sphere of influence that I had from which to work with for my client pool would more likely be the type of people that I would want to have a cup of coffee with.
Right. And is it?
So, yes, I became a member of the National Association of Gay and Lesbian Real Estates of America, started focusing, dumped my previous lender, who was a local lender to the area, but not a friend to the community, if you
Right.
understand. There were couples that I would put with this person that I just didn't feel comfortable with them being with them, but it's because they were a local, well-known realtor. And I decided for myself, I said, you know what? I want to find a realtor that is a friend to the community. I don't care if they're local to here. They actually don't need to be local to here
Right.
to do that type of business. And I did. And I started surrounding myself more with other professionals that were also friends to the community. So I just feel like I'm kind of trying to build more of a coalition of we got you and we're all in this together. And the doing of that makes it feel like more I'm kind of going with the flow of the community and I'm not trying to have to fight against anything.
Right. That's that that's awesome. I've never heard I've never heard of what was it? The Alliance of Gay and Lesbian Realtors?
Oh, yeah, there's a big acronym for it. Yeah, it's the National Association of Gay and Lesbian Real Estate Professionals.
Ah.
There's a P on the end of it. And it's a national organization. I have gotten several clients, referrals that come in just through that, relocating from other states, and they're coming to Carrollton. They're like, well, let me get into this database, and I'll find an agent in the area that's either a member of the community or identifies as an ally to the community, and you have to pay to be a registered part of that program. You can't just send your email in.
Right.
And I've opted to be a part of that for a while now. And that has gained me a lot of attention as a member of the community realtor, not just a realtor.
Right.
And so that's helped a lot. But yeah, it's a great organization. And if you're thinking about moving to another state or something and you're freaking out about, I want to work with an agent and I don't have to worry about being myself, you can just tap in there, find an agent that works in that town. And you know that you're with somebody that should be a safe space.
Okay, awesome. That's cool. Um, pivoting back to Carrollton Rainbow.
Yes.
Sorry, I was.
No, you're great. You're doing good.
Pivoting back to Carrollton Rainbow. One of the questions I have written down is, since you've worked with Carrollton Rainbow since the pandemic, and I was curious about how support for Carrollton Rainbow, particularly the drag shows, because I know that you in particular are very involved in the drag shows. How support for Carrollton Rainbow has fluctuated in Carrollton, and for the queer community of Carrollton in general has fluctuated between you obviously living here your whole life, but particularly the time that you've worked with Carrollton Rainbow?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say I've definitely observed a growth, you mentioned, in Carrollton Rainbow in the years that I've been here. I've seen it start with one thing, because when I first came to Carrollton Rainbow, the first Pride event that I was a part of was over at the Ag Center.
Right.
We barely had air conditioning. It was inside, outside. There were people that had booths next to stables. It was a completely different event. And even then, when we had that event, we were too big for that space. We just didn't know it at the time. We didn't know that many people. We ran out of parking halfway through the day.
Right.
And so we had no idea. So we immediately were like, and at that time I was just a vendor. I hadn't even officially joined the group yet, but I was there the whole day and saw it. But even on that day, they were like, okay, we got to find something bigger and better than this. And that was when it moved to the university. First time we were at the university, it was great. We had a huge turnout, but there was an opportunity to grow there. Every year it's gotten bigger. We started out, you mentioned the drag shows. When they started out, the drag shows were always a part of the day, but they were never necessarily a part of the event because they were relegated to after hours at a local brewery
Okay.
in town. And when I say after hours, the show didn't even start until after 10 o'clock.
Right.
And so our Pride event would end around 4 o'clock at the event as far as the vendor festival, but then this drag show wouldn't occur until 10 or 10:30 at a different location. And so it would be attended, it would always sell out, but the max capacity for that venue was 60 people. So no matter how much interest there was in that event, how many people came to the Pride Festival, we were only going to be able to accommodate 60 humans in that space.
Right.
And we were only going to be able to do it at 10:30 or after they closed. That was that particular location's preference. So when we opened up the opportunity last year to keeping everything in-house, I said to the group, I said, look, I said, we're paying for this space for the whole day.
Right.
I said, we stop at 4, but that's not, we've still got it. We've still paid for it for the whole rest of the day. I said, why don't we have the drag show here? Why? I said, we're in a ballroom where they have a drag show every year already.
Right.
I said, we can pay a flipping fee and they'll flip the room for us and turn it into a performance space between the vendor market and the time of the show.
Right.
And then everything's in-house. It took some nudging to get that, for them to think it. There was some pushback even within our own board.
What kind of pushback?
About putting drag on the campus.
Yeah.
And I said, but there's already drag on the campus. They've been having their own drag shows there for years now. I said, I don't think we need to be afraid of that. So there was some fear and some pushback within the board on this. But I kept trudging along, got it approved from the university, got it approved from the drag performers. I didn't know if they would all want to do, they were all down with it. And they're like, okay, let's try it and see if it'll work out. We ended up with over 250 people. Did you come to the drag show?
The one at Carrollton Pride?
Yeah, last year.
Yes.
Yes, it was the most successful, highly attended drag show ever for Carrollton. It was insane. We had a line out the door. We had no idea. We had to set up a second ticket taking station because we couldn't facilitate the people quickly enough.
Right.
And it was a huge success. So we said, okay, well, obviously this is what we need to do. So going forward, everything's going to be in-house. We added live bands to the element last year, which was great, but we've got to concert that in with the vendor festival more this year. But I've watched it grow, and the drag element of it, without a doubt, unequivocally, has played a huge role in the growth of this. There has always been a huge market and need apparently out here for drag, because every time any of us have a show, it sells out, whether it's us, whether it's a fellow drag house, the Trixie Girls, it always sells out. The only obstacles that have ever presented themselves in this community as far as the drag is concerned has been finding the correct venues to have it, finding the venue owners that are willing to let you have it, finding the venue owners that are willing to let you have it, but are they willing to let you have it during business hours?
Right.
And so those have been the obstacles that we've overcome. That the desire for the drag in the community's always been here. Every time we have a show, it sells out. We've never not sold out a show. And so I think the want and the need for it's always here. Our obstacle is, and will continue to be for a little bit here, is finding venue owners that are brave enough to let you have a show there. Because Peter out at the Loon, and am I okay to transition over to that right now?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Peter out of the Loon is Peter Mayhew is the owner of the Loon and Whimsical Cafe in Noonan, Georgia. And he reached out to me, to Carrollton Rainbow, and said, I hear you guys are doing really well out there in Carrollton, and you guys produce some drag shows. I own this restaurant and bar out here. We're the unofficial gay bar in town, and I really want to bring drag to Noonan. Can you help me do that?
Yeah.
And we have now had 3 sold out, super successful shows there. We have another one coming up at the end of the month for their first brunch. It's already sold out. And there's a huge, again, the need for it is out there. It's the first time we've ever introduced drag, and every show has sold out.
Right.
And I'm going to credit drag with that again. And they're dipping their toe in it out there at Noonan. And he's already planning activities for Pride Month. So I can see the bubblings already in Noonan out there of what happened here. So I'm excited to see that grow. And the fact that we're actually getting to kind of help and water a little bit of it from Carrollton Rainbow is very exciting. But I see happening out there what happened out here. And so I know that it's possible for it to happen out there, and it's already happening in Dallas. They've developed their own P-Flag out in Dallas, and their seeds are starting to grow out there as well.
Right. What would you say contributes to the what would you say is the contributes to the to the demand for drag in these areas?
What contributes to the demand for drag in these areas? Lack thereof.
Yeah.
I think the people that live out in here see just as much of the drag as far as media and that attention is concerned. RuPaul's Drag Race continues to be one of the top shows on television.
Right.
And it's just as widely watched and consumed in the less densely populated, less urban areas like we live in as it is in town. But the opportunity to see it up close and personal has just never presented itself.
Right.
Because of obvious factors. I think it's finally become so popular in the media sphere that that's giving permission for it to find its way out into the more suburban areas, and we're seeing it pop up in places that we never would have before.
And I remember the one that I volunteered, the drag show that I volunteered with at the Loon was protested, and and I was curious if I was curious if that was the only instance of that happening, or if we've had more of that since Trump took office, for example.
Great question. And all the time that I have been with Carrollton Rainbow, and we have produced so many drag shows, that one that you actually happen to attend in Lunan is literally the only drag show that I have ever been to that we produced where we've ever seen any protesters.
Interesting.
Now, I attended an event at the University of West Georgia where they invited Carrollton Rainbow to come amongst a number of other like-minded vendors. P-Flag was there, Free Mom Hugs was there, and there was a gentleman that came into that space with a camera trying to record and provoke some of the vendors, and he had to be escorted out.
Right.
That is the only other time I've been in that close of a situation where somebody was genuinely trying to put themselves in a protest position.
Right.
But as far as our drag shows, that's the only time I've ever seen it, which I'm surprised to say that. I honestly would not have been surprised if I had seen something pop up at one of the many drag shows that we've had.
Right.
But I will say that a lot of our drag shows are pretty contained and protected. Like if you think about the one at the university, that's the University of West Georgia. You have to get up into the campus center ballroom, into that building, and then we have officers stationed at each exit. So we thankfully have our shows in very protected spaces. But the ones that are right there in the public where you can walk right up, we've had those too, just like in the Loon. But that's the first time that anybody's ever staged a pretty elaborate setup. They came armed with signs. It was a pretty well produced event. I mean, the event owner and the help, they did a beautiful job of extinguishing the situation. The guests never knew anything about it. But it was a real thing that happened.
Right. Why would you say that they targeted that one in particular?
I think they said that it had gotten some kind of a local media attention of a local group of women and I can't remember what he referred to them as, but he said that he thinks that his drag show got some local media attention, and that media attention made its way to this particular group that drove down there. Apparently, the group was not from Newnan. They drove down from somewhere and found out about the event. Yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know that that show got local media attention. Was it negative or positive?
I don't know. Just however they found out about it. I would assume that they just because he was, trying to promote it and stuff, that it was happening on his local medias. So on his local socials. It's possible they could have found out that way.
Interesting.
Word gets around.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, that's the only drag show I've been to at Carrollton, at Carrollton Rainbow or anywhere else really.
Oh my God, we gotta change that.
Right, yeah. I've been to that got protests. I've been to
they got protests. Oh,
yes.
Okay,
yeah. I because I went to I've been to a few at Carrollton Pride. Yeah. And, they didn't get protests. Even the ones I've been to in Atlanta didn't really get protests.
No, and even during the event, the security was calling me out there, and he's like, look down there. I think they're protesters. And
right.
Because, like I said, I had never had this happen. I'm like, nah, I don't think so. I said, I think it's fine.
Right.
And I didn't buy it. And he started setting up, he's like, I'm going to protect the entrance. And lo and behold, he was right the whole time.
Yeah?
Yeah, and so his eye saw something that mine definitely didn't, because the exact people he thought, those were the ones that came up there, and they were all set up, and they pulled a wagon with signs in it. And
right.
They were ready to go. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been harassed by protesters since I've been to Atlanta Pride last. They're normally at these wide-scale events.
Yeah, and at wide-scale events like Atlanta Pride, I've been going there since I was 20, and, I got accustomed to seeing the typical protesters out there that would always be masked and covered up by the Pansy Patrol,
right,
or the Angel Brigade, or something like that. So that was something that I was accustomed to seeing. But yeah, out here in these parts, that was new for me. Right.
So all right. So pivoting away from the protesters at the Loon. So what would you say is the relationship between Carrollton Rainbow and the university? Particularly with QSA, which, I know that many of our members were previously in the QSA. I was previously in the QSA on campus. So I was curious to know more about the relationship between those two organizations and the university in general.
The relationship between Carrollton Rainbow University is pretty superficial at this point, I would say. When we do have the Pride event there, it's very clear that is our event.
Right.
That we are paying to have at the university. The university is not necessarily putting its name behind it. This isn't a university-sponsored event. So in that way, the relationship is very much vendor-university venue provider.
Right.
I wouldn't say it's much more than that. More specifically, though, to the QSA, that's a much more important relationship to us in terms of connection and fostering community, because we have the same goals in mind.
Right.
And so we try to always keep an open dialogue through one of our channels with the QSA when we've got events in mind, especially events that specifically pertain to them. And then recently we've become more aware of the fact of issues that are prohibitive for students at the university that want to participate in some of our events. More specifically speaking, is transportation.
Right.
That's a big prohibitor for some of the students that have wanted to participate in some of our events. They just can't get there.
Right.
But we're very excited and try to foster our relationship with the QSA. But we also, like that thing I just mentioned there, would love the opportunity to identify any issues or obstacles that the QSA or any students at the university may be having if they want to try to be a part of any of the stuff that we do, but they just can't get there because of lack of transportation. So sidebar, we've been trying to look into if there's an opportunity with the university where they can use some of their existing transportation to help that.
Interesting.
Yeah, because they use their buses to cart their cheerleaders around
right
all the time. So I don't see if we lead it with the QSA and say it's coming from the QSA, it seems like there should be an opportunity there to create some transportation situations. So, like, say for example, the Christy Lee concert and the picnic. That's a perfect opportunity. What if the university students want to get there? They definitely can't walk there,
Right.
but it would be an easy drive for that bus to take them over there, drop them off at a certain time, and pick them up at a certain time, because everything has a definite beginning and ending time.
Right.
Yeah, so that's one of the things that we're also thinking about that we think could help incorporate more of the students in addition to the QSA to being able to participate in our events and vice versa.
That's interesting. I didn't know about that.
Yeah. Yeah, because we were invited along with Lucy to speak at one of Dr. DeLine's classes. Do you know him?
I don't think so.
I think his last name is spelled DeLine, Deline. Anyway, and it was there speaking to these students when we found out about this transportation issue. So yeah, several students, and they were like, "Yeah, we see y'all shows and stuff all the time. We just can't get there."
Right.
So yeah,
they're
not as lucky as you are to be a good driver.
Would you say that there's also a generational disconnect?
Yes, without a doubt. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. There's definitely a generational disconnect between that we can see or feel that's palpable between us and the QSA that we try to bridge, and we continue to try to bridge, because the majority, if not all, of the members of the board of Carrollton Rainbow are in the 40-plus age range, and so there's an issue there of being able to connect. So one of the things that we've implemented that we're trying to do to help with that is the trans non-binary support group. While the leaders of that, Avery, Lucy, and Riley, are all in that age demographic, we're trying to create a space there where it's not about, they're just there facilitating. We're trying to create a space where people of the same age group demographic can come together and just hang out. And like last time they had a meeting, Avery messaged me right after and said, "That was such a great meeting. So many people came." I don't know if you went or not, but so many people came that hadn't been, and they all ended up getting together after the meeting, and they all went to Gallery Row to hang out.
That's cool.
And everyone's like, that's the goal. That's the goal. And so those kinds of opportunities we're trying to create so younger people can come together in a space and kind of connect and meet otherwise that they may not be able to.
Right. That is so cool. No, I did not go to that event, but I meant to.
That event was previously held we tried to have it several months. It was held at Grace Lutheran, and it wasn't nearly as well attended. We didn't know if it was because of the church or the location, but once we moved it over to where it's located now at the Carroll County Mental Health Advocates, at that building, the Stallings building, right there down from the square, the attendance shot up, and then one of the reasons we discovered last week was transportation.
Right.
So many of the people that came there walked down there from an event they had just gone to at Gallery Row, and then when it was done, they just walked right back.
Right.
And they said it being there made it so much more convenient, because that's where a lot of the community is in and around the square, and it being out there, the church was inconvenient for some people.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So how would you say that Carrollton Rainbow's presence has had a general effect, other than the things that you've already said, but how else would you say that's had a general effect on the queer community of Carrollton and the wider Carrollton community in general?
I think it has shown the community that we can have our own safe spaces right here. That they and we have been here the whole night. We don't have to drive into a nearest urban city to be able to be around other members of our community or be able to go to events where we feel safe, comfortable, and protected and appreciated.
Right.
We can create. We're figuring out through Carrollton Rainbow that we can do all of those same things right here where we live. That we can feel safe right here in Carrollton. We don't have to go somewhere else to do that. We can create that safe space right here.
Right. Awesome. Well, we're currently at 29 minutes and 15 seconds for our time. Okay. Do you have any closing thoughts before we finish this oral history?
No, I don't think so. You've been great.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here. And for being willing to be interviewed. It really helps a lot.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
You are very welcome, Floyd. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, I'm
Okay.
ending the recording now.
Okay.